My name is Andy McDougall. I'm the, I guess they call it managing director of Wattier Studio up here in Courtenay. And we run a screen printing shop, and we do textile printing, we do fine art printing. I think it was Angela, she kind of brought up this idea and showed us this idea of hanging individual pieces with prints on them, one in front of the other. And that evolved into, what if we started printing on transparent materials, and then further to that, well, now we got a 12-foot high thing. How do we take a print and maybe pull a print apart, to show how prints are made, possibly? So we're basically trying to help each artist develop their vision.
My name is Angela Marston. I am a Coast Salish artist on Vancouver Island, and my Hulkaminam name is Sati Stahom. I think my idea of out of the frame is taking the commercial idea of what Coast Salish printmaking and pushing the boundaries and doing something different, not being limited by the commercial goal of having to sell your print, but doing something creative and innovative and fun and exciting.
I'm Chris Paul. I'm from the Sartlip Reserve in Brownwood Bay, Saniston area. Being asked to be a part of it, for me it's really exciting, because you end up in a little bubble as an artist, and then every now and then that bubble bursts and people say they want to come in and do something with you, and for me that's really exciting, having a chance to collaborate with other artists.
My name is Andy Everson. I come from the Comox First Nation. I got involved with this project when approached by Andrea Walsh from University of Victoria, and I heard about it through the grapevine here at the Wattier Friendship Center. Been involved with the creation of Wattier Studios right from the get-go, working on courses with Andy McDougall. So loop on things that happen on the screen printing side of Wattier Studio.
I'm Les Lai. My colonized Catholic Canadian name is Leslie Robert Sam. I'm mostly Cowichan from Duncan. Yeah, out of the frame, to me, initially when I began to talk with Andrea Walsh, was that we were talking about how serigraph printing or giclée printing, or various forms of printing on the Northwest Coast, are sort of frowned upon as being beneath carving and jewelry, that it's not really on that level because it's not original works. And in my work, one of the things that I wanted to do, that I've approached my work from the perspective, was that I never really wanted my work to sell out, to be tailored towards a specific, like, I'll do this, and lots of people will buy this, and they'll make me lots of money.
My name's Maynard Johnny Jr. I live in Chemainus. My father's from Penalakat tribe, and my mother's from Cape Mudge on Quadra Island. So I have two different backgrounds of culture that I can follow, but I chose Coast Salish to create my name as an artist. The Out of Frame exhibit is sort of a rebirth or a new beginning in my art career. It's sort of come at a point in my life as an artist where I've really gotten used to doing a certain thing a certain way. So the way I design, the way I create different images has sort of been the same way for the last little while. Before this exhibit came about, I was starting to really feel not bored or tired, but more so wanting to think a little more outside the box. The challenge has been that I haven't been as hands-on. Like when I create my own works, I'm so used to saying, okay, well, I'll do a small crude sketch of my work, which gives me complete control of that little crude sketch, and then I'll do a larger scale, full-scale drafting of the design on a watercolor paper or a canvas.
The challenge, I think, was trying to bring together all of these different voices into something that's a little bit cohesive, so that while we each could show our own artistic character and flavor and ideas, we still wanted to be able to create something that's cohesive for the viewer to witness when they come into the exhibit.
Well, for me, it's always exciting when I work in silkscreen because I work in everything, glass, metal, all sorts of different mediums. It helps me, propels me forward to keep silkscreening alive.
I don't know, I think it was just sort of a natural progression from one style of art to another. It's like learning a new discipline. It's sure, it can be challenging at times, but it's also exciting when you're learning new form lines and ways of putting things together. It's maybe a little bit more somewhat organic, but even when you're still designing with a very structured form line, it's still somewhat organic, and you're still putting pieces together. So it felt very natural, I guess.
Well, for me, the West Coast is actually the landscape and the culture and the weather. And of course, being a part of that, being a little kid, I started with landscape artwork and then eventually moved into West Coast art, which is where I found the most gratifying connection to all of what I just originally described. And starting more abstractly first, and then it sort of subtly made its way into my artwork, which was really the culture coming in, which was really special.
The challenge has been that I haven't been as hands-on. Like when I create my own works, I'm so used to saying, okay, well, I'll do a small crude sketch of my work, which gives me complete control of that little crude sketch, and then I'll do a larger scale, full scale drafting of the design on a watercolor paper or a canvas or whatever media that I'm painting on. Complete control in how that I draft it onto that surface and then paint it. Versus this one, I didn't have as much control, which I was all right with. Just the distance of, I live in a different area, so having to correspond on Facebook and through emails and text messages required a bit of flexibility with what I was doing. And then
working with Andy McDougall, and I think he's also got a different way of looking at printing than the traditional printing of native art. And it's funny because silkscreen printing is a contemporary form, but Andy's got a bit of a different way of thinking in terms of how we can do this. And collaborating with the other artists, I think, is an amazing thing for me personally to experience anyways, to work, not necessarily we're collaborating on designs, but collaborating on making an installation together. I think it'll be neat to have it all come together once they're up, and it's a different way of looking at what you can do with printing.
Working from their sketches, working from their drawings, we try to figure out what, the color, how the colors are going to go together. And then they have to trust us to a point that we're going to try to deliver the best job that we can.
That's kind of how I feel, and I guess, again, you could call it contemporary. I just finished a drum that was 8 colors, and normally I use 2 or 3. And I had so much fun doing it, and it makes the native art, like the Salish design, more pop out more, be more vibrant, more colorful. It gives it just that much more appeal to it.
It's fun and it's creative, and they're different colors that maybe might not necessarily sell so well in a gallery, but they look nice together. Do you know, and they're fun. It's a fun color combination.
You can conceptualize things, but when the ink hits the paper, or the Mylar in this case, things change a little bit. And so we had ideas about how this would work, and then depending on the imagery that we got, the size of it, all that, things had to be changed around.
Change is always happening, and it doesn't matter how much we struggle with it or how how okay we are with it. It's going to happen regardless of where we are at in our lives. And if you turn my print sideways, you'll see that there's a water design in it, and that represents the goal of being fluid as opposed to struggling and being resistful to change.
Out of the frame means a number of different things for me as somebody that has done limited edition prints for a large number of years. Typically when we do limited edition prints, the expectation is that the prints will end up in a frame. So out of the frame kind of, to me, means kind of freeing the printed object from being kind of encumbered by the frame, and really for an artist it opens up possibilities to what we can do in terms of printmaking and so on.
I think it's always a challenge, but it's also the kind of challenge you want. It also gives you a bridge across to their artwork where, you know, that it helps you understand, sort of gives you a pin in the world, you know, where you go, okay, that's where I am.
I used to get upset because people would call me a contemporary artist, but I'd be like, no, I'm a traditional artist. I use traditional shapes, traditional design, all Salish. There's no real contemporary elements to what I do. But I think when people call my art contemporary, it's because it's on a print. It's a silkscreen print.
I think for Coast Salish artists, and in fact artists from all over the Northwest Coast, in recent years we've been freed from this idea that we have to stick with the traditional colors of black and red and white, and be able to move outside of those into a lot more kind of vibrant palette. In today's society, and we're exposed to a lot of kind of contemporary ideas and ideas of art. We're exposed to artists from all over the world, and frankly color palettes from all over the world.
I've never really worked on a collaborative piece before. I've assisted or kind of apprenticed. So this has been very interesting, and it's been challenging, but not in a good way, because it's pushing the boundaries of what I would normally do, which is even more than what I expected.
I've always been open to working with artists, and when people have questions, other artists that are coming up have questions, like how did you draw this, or what inspired you to create this, and why do you use this color? Do you think it'd be funny to use pink? And I'd be like, well, I mean, it's however you want to interpret it.
What we're doing as contemporary artists is being able to take that traditional art form and realizing that it's going to be viewed by a whole set of different eyes than people from just inside of our culture.
This is a collaborative project here with the Salish artists that are involved and our print studio. But there's some individual people that I'd like to name and thank them very much. Andrea Walsh, professor at UVic, really has made this whole thing go, and her assistants Justine and India have been super helpful with us all the way through. Obviously, is the people at the Legacy Gallery. They've done a great job putting this whole show together, and just kudos to them. There's another group that it wouldn't have happened without, and that's First Peoples Cultural Council and the BC Arts Council, who very graciously funded our collective to do this whole project. I want to thank the Wache Friendship Center, who basically the Wache studio works in the Wache Friendship Center building, and it's just been great working with them, and everybody's been really nice to the artists coming up. And then I have to mention my print crew in the studio, Aaron Brillon. I gotta say, upstairs in our shop, Rowan Halliwell, and also one of the artists, Andy Everson, and Marlo Wiley is one of our printers, and we've recently had Asley Rockar has come on board, and she's really been helping us quite a lot too. single person can't do a thing like this. It takes a lot of people to do it, and everybody has to be pulling in one direction to make it happen. And so these people have just been great.